Hello, everyone. This is Loretta Sernowski. Welcome to Living in Rocky Point. And today I have my dear friend Ricardo Borquez on, and we are talking about a sticky subject, which hopefully he can clear up a lot of myths about this topic, because I know there's lots of myths floating out there. And as a realtor with Remax Costa Del Mar, when I have people and they see abandoned houses, they're always like, "Oh, maybe I can just move into that one or get a good deal or foreclosures." So Ricardo's here to answer a lot of your questions and to
Hopefully.
to us about how this actually happens. Ricardo, first of all, why don't you tell us who you are, a little bit of what you do here in Rocky Point?
Sure. Good morning, all. Thank you for having me today, Loretta. It's been a while since you and I didn't do
Yeah.
a live show, so glad to be back. Uh, I'm a real estate attorney, licensed to practice in Mexico, and I have been practicing law since 1998. So I have accumulated a number of years of experience, and Puerto Peñasco has been definitely a place in which you can, you know, uh, improve your skills. There's a lot of litigation, not only on possession matters, but of course commercial matters and civil matters, pertaining real estate. So pretty busy. Um I'm also close to notary publics, as my wife is notary public in town, so pretty related to the real estate, not only on trial, but also on the world where actually everybody wants to be successful, which is accomplishing and getting your escrituras, recorded.
So since you're both in that world of law, when you get home, do you talk about work, or you're like, no talking about work?
No, it's not forbidden. Of course, we try to use, whatever is left of our time to, have a good time with the kids.
Sure.
So, of course, there are moments in which we do talk about some matters that are important, but mainly, home is home. So we try to, be parents, devoting parents with much time for them.
Yeah, of course. My boyfriend's not a realtor, but I know he says when all I talk about is real estate, dogs, food, and then that's what's important to me and him. He goes, at least I know I'm in there somewhere.
Yeah, no, for us it's not forbidden. Again, I mean, it's important. It's a conversation that both understand, and we live, pretty much involved in that. So it's nothing that actually, bother any of us. But again, it's just we prioritize whatever we are. So if we're at home, we try to, invest more time with the kids and
Yeah,
whatever is important for them.
that time
But yeah,
goes
we're,
fast,
we're constantly, talking about, legal matters.
of course.
Yeah.
So on to our topic. So what exactly is a squatter? And how does squatting happen in Mexico, but more specifically here in Rocky Point?
Basically, squatter is someone or a group of individuals that trespasses or enters into a place without any legal rights. Uh, in here, uh, we talk about people that are not owners, but also sometimes we're talking about people that may be owners, yet they don't have the right to use the property. Uh, as an example, if you have rented out your house, you cannot just go there and change locks, and that's about it, because you're owed a number of dollars or pesos. You have to deal with that, with your tenant amicably or through court. But you can't just go there and lock and change the locks, because then you are trespassing, even though you
Even
are the owner.
what if they haven't paid their rent?
If they haven't paid the rent, And you have to deal with that again directly, of course, first with your tenant. If that doesn't work out, then you have to work it out through court.
Oh, wow.
You have to denounce that there was an agreement between you and your tenant with such and such terms and conditions, and that one of the most important conditions, which is payment, is not met. So you want the court to declare that the contract is rescinded or terminated, or if it got automatically rescinded, you want the court to remove them or evict them or take or how do you call that in English? Yeah, evict them out of the place. But you can't just do yourself that. It's you cannot take the law by yourself or by your hand in Mexico.
Not legally.
Of course.
And believe it or not, it's the same thing in Canada. My cousins are actually visiting me here this week, and we had this conversation yesterday. And if someone hasn't paid their rent, you can't just go over there with one of your big bad friends and get them to leave. You have to go through the courts.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a question. How long does it take to get the court date for this? And is there a serve notice to the renter first?
Sure. That is always the key question. There is no specific time frame for an attorney to get that done. You are going to be subject to the court's agenda, which is typically busy, busy, busy. So, but it's
Is
long.
that here in Rocky Point?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. There's a civil court law in Puerto Peñasco that that is there to also take care of these matters. But yeah, it may take a year, it may take 2 years, it may take 6 months, 4 years,
Wow.
5 years. You name it. It's just it depends on what kind of circumstances you are. Depend of what kind of defendant you have. If you have something that is stubborn and is determined to give you a hard time, likely that will happen.
What
You
about
are
if
going to succeed, evicting your tenant or the person who is trespassing, likely. Uh, but it's unfortunately it takes long.
and do they get a serve? Do they get notice serve?
They have to, even though they are illegally in the place. Uh, Everybody does have the constitutional right to be heard and defended in a court of law, and
And who gives that notice to them?
it's the court through the specialized clerics, doing
Okay.
that.
Does it
So
matter? Is there a difference between, say, if they were renting a place at Bay Serena or a house in Las Conchas? Does it matter?
no, 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 no. What does matter is how that person or those people entered into that property. If you actually accessed a condominium through a lease agreement or a rent agreement, you will never be eligible to claim adverse possession, or in other words, to acquire ownership of the property, because you are not possessing it as owner. Even though you have 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, it doesn't matter as long as your counterpart can prove that you accessed it as a tenant. So that doesn't give you any right to become owner. Different is if you actually trespassed it with the intention to own it, no contract whatsoever, no nothing. You just saw it, you entered into, then you can claim that you have been possessing that place for a given number of years, continuously, publicly, certainly, and as a bad faith possessor, then you could claim adverse possession after 13 years of
13.
possessing. It's not
And then,
easy.
so I heard that if you get the CFE bill in your name, then you can take possession. Is that true?
Please, I was reading the question, so I lost what you're asking.
If I heard that if you can get the CFE bill in your name, then you can take possession. Is that true?
Well, not automatically, paying property taxes or CFE bills or telephone bills that are addressed on that specific area will help you to prove your case at a certain level. Uh, but mainly, what you have to prove is that you are possessing it as owner. That's the key element for someone to be successful, claiming that kind of right. Uh, the law does have this kind of provisions, uh, because lawmakers, were aware that in some cases, uh, for instance, someone actually gifted verbally a property to another person, okay, which is typically how it starts. So let's say a friend to a friend, look, I love you dearly, blah 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 blah, and I'm ill or whatever reason, but I would like to give you this condominium, and that you have it, it's yours, you have been good to me, blah 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 blah. So, and next day that person passes, so that deal never got to go to the notary public and be formalized in a public instrument. So that person who did receive the gift can go to court and prove that this other person actually gifted that property.
But
Okay.
isn't it just hearsay though? Like, how do they prove that?
Well, yeah, it's not. Of course, you would have to prove it. Let's say that that gift actually happened in a reunion where there were 4 or 5 people gathered, so you can bring those witnesses, to prove that, yeah, in fact, that person did say that, and that happened 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. So you, after that, entered into the place and lived right there for that much time of number of years. So you can prove in court that you possessed it as a good faith possessor, because that the owner actually did give you the condominium. So you can prove that you have been possessing it as owner, publicly, continuously, and certainly for not at least 5 years. If you can prove that, the court is going to grant you the ownership of the condominium. That's pretty much one of the examples I can give you as to why that kind of law exists in the civil code. It's not meant for someone to just take advantage of someone else and just trespass. So
Right.
there's a misconception in lots of people around that.
So Robin Miller, who's a colleague of mine, a great colleague, says in the rental agreement, do you recommend a clause about this? Give details as to the process.
Uh, Not necessarily. I mean, whether you put it in the contract or not, it depends on how your counterpart is going to act. What it matters, though, is that you disclose when you're closing a rental agreement or a sales agreement or whatever. Disclose, disclose, disclose. The law is there, and uh, information is, if of course, is gold. But it won't hurt if you put something like that in the contract, but it's not necessary. By the way, hi Robin.
Okay, so here in Rocky Point, are you aware? Is this a problem in Rocky Point? Squatting, is it a problem? I heard that there was
It
uh,
is.
I heard there was 19 houses in Las Conchas. I don't know if that's true or not. You know how rumors are.
It is a problem in Puerto Peñasco, as it is a problem, in many other places in Mexico, as it may be a problem in the States or in Canada. I mean, it does happen. I don't I don't have a recollection per se as to how many houses have been, affected. But yes, I have heard about Las Conchas. I'm very well aware of this problem in Las Palomas with a group of people just, fraudulently entering into condominiums and, with a title or a deed in hand, they go and they show that document to the HOA and they ask for keys. And if they are not given with keys, then they just go and change locks, violently and trespass and get access. But all the belongings of the someone is there. So they are not following court process. They are not giving the owners or whoever is there the constitutional right to be heard and defended in a court of law.
So that, in other words, they're giving them the deed. When you say they show them the deed, they just
Yeah.
created that. It's not a real deed.
It is, but that deed has come out fraudulently.
So once they're in there, then it's very
Well,
difficult.
unfortunately, in those cases, you have to go to court. I mean, number one, you have to file either a criminal complaint, to funnel that problem through the criminal agencies because it is a crime or a felony. And also, you have to go to civil court to process the fraud, in through which this public instrument was issued. In other words, you have to file for an validation of that escritura.
Okay.
That's an ongoing issue right now.
So Robin has another question. If the CFE bill is in the renter's name, for people who aren't sure what CFE means, that's our power bill. If it's in the renter's name for over 10 years or any year,
I wouldn't say it's a huge impact, Robin, but it could be something that in the long run it may help that person to prove a case in court. I don't see why an owner is going to switch the CFE bill to a tenant.
Well,
But I know it happened.
feel that for you because people are not aware of that is just one more step that they could lose,
No, not necessarily. I mean, it's really not a problem. I mean, sometimes you have to have as the tenant the CFE because you want to write it off from your taxes. So you may need that document in your name. It's really not a problem as long as you have a rental agreement that says that you are going to be changing the CFE bill. So that fact comes out given this agreement. So you can always prove that the person was allowed by you, the owner, to change the CFE. So that would totally, go against any potential intention to prove with that document against you later on.
right.
But the contract is important, how it's written down, and unfortunately, most times those contracts are poorly written. Most times, I mean.
So is that something that you do? Your office does? Would you write a lease contract?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But we have, we have acquired, certain amount of experience that allows us to put certain clauses in those agreements and to clean that agreement in a way that if that document was taken to court, it's not It's I don't clap. I mean, that's what we do. But fortunately, we do have the experience, uh, to show that experience in those contracts.
So let's talk about the rights for the squatter.
Hmm.
What does Mexican law say about that? And how long do they have to be on that? Is that the 13 years they have to be there?
Yes,
And how do you prove that timeline? And
witness
who do you prove it to?
the court.
Okay.
You have to prove your case, saying, "Look, Your Honor, uh, back in 2000, I had no way to buy a house. I was, any given justifications. Uh, I had my family, I had myself and little kids, and I had no place to live, and so I saw this house. It was abandoned, and I knew it was abandoned. So I thought, for a while, I could stay there for Meanwhile, my circumstances got better. But later on, you kind of felt more into, okay, let's see, it's been 2 years and nobody says anything, so let's try another year and another year and another year, and perhaps you ended up being there for 20 years or 15 years. Okay, but you have been acting all along as owner. In other words, since day one, not only you trespassed it, let's say this is just an empty lot, so you fenced it. If you did put a fence, publicly, the rest of the neighbors or the people passing by can look that you are doing something, as it looks like you are the owner because you are fencing it, and then you build a little room and another thing, but they see you doing that, so it's not that difficult to make people believe you are the owner. And whoever asks you, who are you? Oh, I am such and such, and I own the place. And you act and behave and publicly mention that that is yours for all this time, and that possession is not interrupted at all. You entered into the place and you have never ceased to possess it. Then with all those aspects, you can after 13 years go to court and say, Your Honor, I actually trespassed this property because I had no other choice, but whatever justification you can think of.
Right.
So I did possess this place in bad faith. I confess that I trespassed without any right. It wasn't mine, but I saw it abandoned and I planned to actually trespass it. So I entered into illegally bad faith, but I did possess it for more than 13 years. The law, civil code says 10, but you have to also factor in uh, these other 3 years because it's the sanction on the criminal side. I think it's 6 years of prison or something. So the average of that time frame you have to factor in also. That's why I assume the 10 years of the civil code plus 3 years of the criminal side. So it's 13 years. If you can prove that, then it's likely that the court says, okay, uh, I see your case. How can you prove it? Okay, I have witness that saw me entering into and that they have lived, on my right side or across the street, or they have been living there for 20 years, so they know. As a matter of fact, that day after day, I have lived in that place. So you can bring those witness, being real witness, saying it is true that person got in this lot 20 years ago. I saw him, and then you could prove that you possessed it as if you were the owner or acting as an owner, in bad faith. But it's not easy for squatters to actually get away with it, legally speaking.
How do they put the power bill in their name and how do they pay the taxes?
Well, taxes is really easy. You can actually go to the city and find out what the property tax code for that piece of land is, and then you pay it. It doesn't matter if it's not under your name.
What about CFE?
Same thing.
You just use the address?
You can use the address, or you could even forge a lease agreement or something. The CFE is not going to ask you to bring the owner to say, "Oh yeah, I did agree to to this for these people to have access to my land."
Okay. Robin says let's say the squatter or renter invested over $20,000 over 13 years and has the receipts. That will help in court as well, right?
That will certainly help him to prove that he has been acting as owner, not as a renter. If the affected party can prove that this counterpart accessed the land or the house as tenant, forget about it. It doesn't matter that that person invested 20,000 or a million. That person entered into the place as tenant. It won't give him her any rights to claim ownership.
No, so when you say tenant, that's like a known, so they have an agreement with the owner. That's
Of
different
course.
than a squatter, though.
Yes, tenants are legally in the place because there was a rental agreement. If
Right.
tenant is not paying rent, it's just breaching the rental agreement. It's a problem of a contract, breach of contract. But it doesn't mean that that tenant entered into as a squatter. It just can't. Squatter is a squatter because it didn't have any right
Right.
to have access to the property.
They were in there illegally, no
Right.
contract in place. So,
But if in that case, rental agreement, if I am the landlord and I am so frustrated that my tenant is not paying me rent, and then I go and change locks, even though all the belongings are inside, then even though I am the owner, I am trespassing because I have granted possession to my tenant through a contract. I can't just change mind and, oh, you owe me money, I'm locking you out. It's that is illegal.
right, right. Well, for and good reason too, really. I mean, because you don't want owners kind of bullying tenants around either.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, what would you say to everyone out there who has a property and they're not here very often? What is the best way for them to avoid a squatter?
uh, I don't have magic answer that fits for every other question around that. But like anywhere else, just make sure that that property is seen by the public as in fact belonging to someone else that is using it. Do not abandon it. Make sure if you have someone in town, ask that person to look after, once in a while, put
So
some
it's well worth it.
cameras.
It's well worth it to hire someone to check on it on a regular basis.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
It
So,
won't guarantee you that it, won't happen, but for squatters, it's easier to have access to abandoned properties rather than properties that are being used. That's,
and
um,
let's say what you said about Las Palomas. As a owner, how do you prevent that from happening? Can you say to the HOA that you don't have tenant, you're never going to have one, or how do we prevent that from happening? Because that's
Well, of course, you can't prevent it like you can't prevent pest in your condo. You just go and hire the pest people. They go there and take care of the problem. That's it. You just take steps to try to prevent, or if you are somehow affected, you have taken some steps that are going to help you in the court process. So that's what how we at least we have done. We have filed not only criminal complaints that are under investigation right now, but also file civil and commercial lawsuits on that regard. Once you have the first resolution rendered, then it kind of becomes a precedent. Okay, but again, you just have to take care of your property, making sure that everybody knows that you are there.
yeah. So Robin says once the rental agreement has expired, now the renter turns into a squatter. It seems like this would happen a lot.
No, 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 no. If the rental agreement expires, it becomes uh, it just it continues to be a rental agreement, but without an expiration date. So you originally entered into agreement that it was good for 1 year, and that you forgot as landlord to renew it. So it doesn't mean that the agreement expired. The year of the agreement, it did expire, but since you did not uh, come up with another agreement that says another year or 6 months or 2 years or something different, it just becomes indefinite. But it doesn't mean that the agreement was terminated or finished.
That's good to know. And Steve wants to know if there's a statute of limitations for criminal trespassing in Mexico.
13 years.
Okay. So let's say I'm from Colorado. I have a house in Las Conchas. I haven't been out there for a year, and my neighbor calls me and says, "Did you rent out your house? Because someone's staying there."
Yes.
What is my first step to do?
Well, I would call someone that is here. Of course, I would call an attorney right away. Okay, I would call someone uh, to be kind and go to the police, file a complaint.
Start the
Uh,
legal process.
yes, you have to do that right away. Right away.
So,
And more importantly, if you are uh, a trust holder, you wanna have the bank informed really quickly, because you may need a power of attorney, and that power of attorney is going to be granted by the bank
why do you need power of attorney?
to go ahead and likely defend the property from the squatters.
Okay. So obviously, if a homeowner finds us out, they're going to be extremely upset, to say the least, and probably want to march over there. Should they confront the squatter? And if so, why or why not?
I would say confront uh, physically, ballistically, no. It is okay to go knock the door, say, "What are you doing here? Who allowed you access?" Whatever number of questions. But I wouldn't suggest any of the anybody out there in the audience or affected, with this, to just go and physically confront them. Uh,
And it
if you
could turn
do it,
into a
if
bad
you do
situation.
it and you're successful, well, good luck. But coming from an attorney, that's not the advice that you are supposed to do.
It
So
could turn into
it has to go through the legal channels.
So you said if you find out there's a squatter, go to the police station. So what do the police do as opposed to the court?
They should send officers to go look, and they would uh, file a report. So they will go and check that there are people inside the property. You can show that you have ownership, and that document not only will support you to file criminal complaint, but also if you go to civil side, it will also help to demonstrate that you have the squatters in the place. Witness are gold. So you want to bring someone with you to witness that there are people squattering.
Okay. Is there anything like as a preventative measure that you can put on your yard or something to
Because
discourage that?
you name it. I mean, you become creative. Having cameras, out of the premises or outside the building that sends a signal to the public that someone is actually using that place. Will send a message. Again, it's not a guarantee, but it certainly is less attractive than an abandoned place.
Mm-hmm.
Any other sign of possession helps. Fence it. Cameras. Have dogs or common sense.
So, do you have any success stories yourself that you've dealt with for that property owners that you successfully removed a squatter?
Yes, I do. I do remember once it was not in town, somewhere else. There was a client of mine that owned a parcel, and the owner adjacent started to develop a housing project. Then all of a sudden, this developer started to fence half of my client's parcel because it was adjacent. So he just, built a fence, this barbed wire fence. I don't know how do you call that, the triangular kind of fence.
Uh-huh.
So he fenced it, sending a sign as he actually owned half of my client's property as well. His plan was to continue his housing project there. So what we did was we immediately filed for an injunction in court to retain possession, or if lost, to recover it. So we proved, number one, that we had been in possession prior to that fencing. And also we proved that he fenced it without any right. But it took about 3 or 4 years.
Really?
Yes, because that person, unfortunately, it was he did that on purpose in many other places. Perhaps in some of them got away with it, and he thought he would prevail as well. So he used all kind of recourses and whatever was in the law to try and see if he could be successful. It was a very valuable property. But yeah. So the court ended up evicting them with the police. He didn't want to get out.
So
So
Robin,
we brought people in, the police with us, and some machinery, and we tore down the fences and some other rooms that he had built. Yeah.
So Robin wants to know how squatters know how to do these things. Do they go to school? Or they hear about it?
The school of life.
They probably are very familiar with Mexican law, right?
Yeah, look, like everywhere else, there in town, like in many other places, are people for everything. You may find people to give you good advice, bad advice, you name it. It's just we are in an area where real estate is important, so squatters are going to be around for sure. If this place was not, of
Desirable.
interest for real estate, squatters would go somewhere else.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, if someone wants to talk to you more about this situation or anything else or real estate law, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, we are here on Fremont Boulevard on Placita Melanie, just next to Interceramic building. And my office is on the uh, downstairs, Suite 101. I'll be happy to assist. My phone number is 638-388-6110. And my email is attorneyborquez@gmail.com. And of course, they can contact you or anybody who knows me, and I'll be happy to assist.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your super busy day to come and talk to the general public about this. I know I've had so many questions from people about this, and I do not want to give answers where I do not totally familiar with the subject. So I prefer to defer to you as the expert.
No, of course, and I know all the way around. Thank you for having me here. I know this is a topic in which you can talk for days.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be able to respond to every single question. So,
Right.
but again, we can do that, case by case in my office.
Super. Everyone, thank you so much for listening. We will edit and record this and repost it. And we'll put Ricardo's information on the caption for everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay cool. The real estate market, believe it or not, is quite steady right now. I just talked to my friend Charlie, who's the home inspector. He's done 20 inspections in July already.
Well,
So
good for you. Good for all.
it's hot outside, but real estate's hot too. So if you have any questions, you can reach me, Canadian Realtor in Mexico @gmail.com, Remax Costa Del Mar. Have a great Thursday, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, Loretta. Bye-bye.
Bye.